Hello and welcome to another Grandstream Tutorials. This is Nathan, your friendly neighborhood support engineer. With that being said, we're talking about feature updates and what we have brought in with 17.x firmware. As you can see, my PBX is currently on 17.16. Anything higher than that, this feature should be supported. As well as my phone, which is currently on 10.6 or 10.x. You can expect, as long as you have those firmware, that firmware or higher on any one of our devices, this feature should be supported. But the feature in question is actually Monitor Call Park. Pretty straightforward on what Monitor Call Park should do. Allows you to park a call, and as it's parked, you can retrieve it from anywhere in the office. That's nice, but how do we make it better? Well, I'm glad you asked. We have implemented the option to actually see the CNAME information or caller ID name information to be populated when someone's on park. So if I was to park someone with my phone, I can actually read what their CNAME is from the call park. So no longer do you have to question who's on call park 1 or call park 2. You should know who it is just by looking at that information. Now, to set this up, it's pretty straightforward and easy. You do it like any other call park button that you would normally set up. There's no enable, there's no disable options that we have to do anywhere. You just simply set it up on the new firmware and it automatically does it for you. Here's my phone. Right now I currently have it registered to account 1, which is 1000. That's tied back to this UCM. Ignore that second account. That's actually for another call feature in another video. So we're going to ignore that one, but we're going to go to the virtual multiple purpose keys here and show you how I set up Monitor Call Park. Now I do have my mode set to Monitored Call Park. I have it associated with my registered account 1, which is 1000. You can give any description that you want. It will be overridden, I guarantee it. And you can put the value to one of your call park numbers. I just chose 701. A lot of times customers will have more than one call park in here, so they'll have up to 4 if they want of, call park value 701, 702, 703, 704. Obviously you might need more depending upon your load, but as long as you have it set up and you park a call, I should be able to read their CNAME information from anywhere, which is a really nice feature. But beyond that, that's all you need to do in order to set up the caller ID for Monitor Call Park. It comes standard with our new firmware packages now. So just look for 17.16, or if you're on the GXPs, make sure you're on 10.6 or higher. But beyond that, that is the new call park function. Now let's demonstrate the new call park CID feature. I'm going to call 1003. All right, and we are going to answer, and then we are going to transfer 700. There we go. Now that the call is parked, we should see the CNAME of the GXP, or the caller. And from there, go ahead and hang up. Next on our highlight list is the shared call appearance, SCA. What is this and why is it important? Well, for those who don't know, this is a very requested feature for quite a while, but this allows us to mimic the old traditional switching equipment of the day. And we're going to be doing this digitally over VoIP trunks, which is really cool. So if we have a VoIP trunk, we can actually monitor calls that come in on that trunk amongst phones, place those calls on hold with that same line, and pick it up from anywhere in the office that also has that shared call account on the phone. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's get started in configuring this. Now I do have some registered accounts here, 1000, 1001. Those are my two phones I'm using for that demonstration. 1000 is my 2170 and 1001 is my 3275, with both, which should both support this. First off, I do have 100 extensions built for my example, so I'm going to solely use extension 100 for the SCA mode. Now in order to do this, we want to make sure we enable SCA. I did that preemptively for you guys, so we can just look at where that's at. From there, once it's enabled, we can actually go to our call features page, scroll down to SCA, and as you can see, we can see the shared line 100. Now we're not going to be registering any phones directly to 100, but we are going to register it in a very funny way. And we'll be doing this by clicking the plus sign just to the right hand corner, and as you can see, we have a private number and a related shared line. Now this is very important. This is something that might trip you up the first time you set this up. But a private number is going to be something on our system that is not used for an extension or not even really known to the system except for this special feature. So I'm using 2000 for my example. We're going to apply that change, and because I'm going to be setting up the 3275, I'll also add a secondary account. But as you can see, if I click down that drop down, we can see extension 2000 with a shared line of 100. I'm going to add one more for my other phone. The more phones you have, the more you'll have to create these numbers for. But you know, I'm kind of going with the somewhat same extension range. I have everything registered as 1000. I'm just, incrementing it by 1000. For my other clients, and there we have it. So I know that I'm going to be using two phones for this feature, and I'm going to create two private numbers in order to register to extension 100. So like I said before, we're not actually registering to 100. We're not doing that. We don't support multiple registration when an account is in SCA mode. That's because it's not going to be configured that way. We're going to go to our 2170 and show you what it takes to get this configured. Now from here, account 2, we're going to go ahead and start setting up registration. But it's not going to be a typical registration like I said before. I'm going to call this line 1. That's going to be what's showing up on my phone. 192.168.2.1. This is my SIP server for my PBX in this case. Now this is where it gets slightly tricky. The SIP user ID is not going to be 100. It's actually going to be the private number of 2000. Authentication ID, however, is going to be associated with the extension of 100. And I will be using extension 100 SIP password in order to register to this. So I know what that is offhand. Oops, thought I did. There we go. Now, no other information is really needed from this. It's pretty bare bones. I'm going to save and apply. Now, if I take a look at my phone right now, that line 1 might come up as green or it might not. It's no big deal. We still need to do one more thing, and that's actually going to our settings, programmable keys, virtual multiple purpose keys here. Oops. Mouse is moving around a little bit. Now that account that we had just registered is currently at a mode of default, so it's actually acting as a registered account. For the SCA mode to work properly, we will need to have this set up as a shared account. So I'm going to go ahead and save and click Save MPKs. All right, now that's about it. That's how you set it up on the 2170. Now we could always check our work by looking at the account statuses. As you can see, we are registered almost like we are with the 1000. It looks like a regular registration here. The only difference is if we go back to our SCA and we bring down the drop-down menu, we can see who's registered to this private number. So like I said before, we're not going to have multiple registrations for the private number of 2000. We're going to have to do this separately between each model and phone. Up next, let's go ahead and work on the 3275 and get this guy up and running with the SCA count. Slightly different, but don't stress about it too much. It's basically the same thing. Oops, let me re-log into this guy. So we're on account 2, similar stuff. I'm going to call it line 1 for simplicity. Same SIP server. Now remember, I'm going to be using 2001, same account ID. Now this is bare bones setup. I'm going to go ahead and click save on that. I'm not going to apply changes just yet because we have one more step on the 3275, which is going to that account's SIP settings. We're going to scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. And we have to make sure, oops, I already did this for you guys. This will not be enabled by default, but in my case, I forgot to disable it. But yes, we will be enabling enable SCA or shared call appearance. Once you save, we can go ahead and hit apply changes on that. Now on the 3275, unlike our 21 series, which is green, ours is actually blue. And you will have notifications happen on the 3275 where if someone is on hold at that time, it will blink yellow. If someone's currently on call with that line, it will be a solid red. So it functions slightly different than our 21 series, but it's the same thing. And so is our 2170. It follows somewhat of the same pattern with slightly different colored blinking patterns. But beyond that, that's how we're going to set up SCA in a nutshell. We can go ahead and check our work and see that both of our extensions are registered with those SCA counts. I can ensure that if I called in to our VoIP trunk, which is being routed directly to extension 100. Both my phones should indicate that there is someone on that line. Anyone could pick up, anyone could hold, and anyone could intercept that hold from any place that they want. But beyond that, that's SCA in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and demonstrate the new SCA feature. So as the outside caller, we're going to call in to the customer's trunk, at which point all the SCA accounts should ring. We could answer from that SCA extension and put it on hold. Once it is on hold from the other phone, we can see indicating in yellow that we have someone on hold on line 1. We can now intercept that hold and talk to the customer. After we're done, hang up and call it a day. Next on our list is the new NAS feature. We're going to be talking about NAS, or Network Attached Storage. It's a really cool feature that allows our PBX to send the call recordings over to the NAS server. That way we have redundant call recording backups and making sure we don't lose any information because we have a limited memory size on our PBX. With that being said, let's go ahead and let's see what it takes to get a NAS storage unit configured on our UCM. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to first start off by going to PBX settings. Then we're going to click NAS. As you can see, I've already have a NAS server pre-programmed. It's pretty straightforward. There is a couple things you want to watch out for. First off, we're going to enable this option. Second, we're going to add the host, which is going to be the IP or domain name of your NAS server. Now, currently on 17.16, we have not implemented the domain name support option for the host, but we're currently working on that, so it is in the works. Just keep that in mind. So as of right now, we're only going to be able to do IP. Next thing we have is share name. Now this is going to be the file or directory that the UCM is going to actually write the data to. You want to make sure that on your NAS server, you allow our PBX or its user to write in that directory. So currently Nate's UCM directory is allowed to be written by Nathan's UCM username. Username field, like most NAS servers, needs to authenticate who's trying to write to his directories. And on our particular NAS, it has a username and password. So this is what we're going to exchange to the NAS server just to let them know who we are and make sure that we are the appropriate endpoint to be writing to one of their files. Then underneath that, we actually have a status display. And just underneath that, we have our status, which is currently available, and that should tell you right then and there that the NAS backup is working. Now, just to go over our NAS server, we are using a Netgear Ready NAS. You should be able to use our system with any NAS server of your choice. But I'm going to show you what it took for me to get this to work on this end. I had to create a user, which is Nathan's UCM. From there, I created its own folder, which is Nate's UCM folder. Now, this is a folder that you have to edit and make sure that that user on the accounts, which is Nathan's UCM, is allowed to write to. As long as you give it the permissions to write, we should be able to back up our call recordings. And as you can see, we have our PBX conference recording, PBX queues, and also just normal PBX recordings, and another option that we have yet to discuss because it is also an introduction into the 17.16 platform, but the PBX SCA, which we're going to cover in the next video. But beyond this, this is a NAS setup. Anytime you set this up and you do a lot of call recordings, everything should be going to the NAS server and it should be backed up to here accordingly, and you can rest assured that all your call recordings will be backed up on its own separate server. So for some reason we ever lost our UCM, lightning hit it and it blew up, at least we have the call recordings that might be vital to any business that you install this for. And for our next topic, we're going to be talking about trunk groups. Now, what are trunk groups? Basically, there's a lot of providers out there that you'll have to end up registering multiple trunks to. So instead of having to create each trunk individually on our system, we can now all lump them into one group and set our inbound patterns accordingly, which just makes things a lot more clean. You don't have to have a whole bunch of inbound routes for all your different trunks. If you're working with the same provider and they give you more than one trunk through their system, you can go ahead and put in their IP or domain name here. Oops, I'm sorry. It's going to be the host name. So we can call this VoIP 5. I always get these mixed up. Host name is going to be the IP or domain name. I'm going to put an IP in here. 68.100.40. There you go. And as you can see, it has all the same settings. The only difference is we can actually add more than one username, password, and auth ID. So if I click on username, I can go ahead and add the username. Usually it's the phone number, so 700-555-1234. Their password was blank. Auth ID was 7005. And I can keep adding these. So if I have another registration through that same provider, I can also go ahead and add that username, 00-555-4321. Enter that trunk's password and that trunk's auth ID, and you can keep adding the usernames and passwords. So You're not going to be You're not going to have to be limited by how many VoIP trunks that you can create. You can all do it from this one. And the cool advantage that you get by doing this, we can save these changes. And when we actually go to our inbound routes and we go to trunk groups, we have the advantage of being able to create a DID for every single one of those trunks all in one. So no longer do you have to keep going through the list and actually looking for the VoIP trunk in there, adding that one, creating the same DID that you did with the same provider. You can do it all in one. So it really cleans the system up and it makes it nice and tidy and very easy to read, especially for us in support. But that's trunk groups for you, and it's that easy to set up. Next, I'm going to talk about how to monitor the inbound multiple mode. For those of you who don't know, we can actually change inbound route just by using inbound multiple mode. So if I actually click on my SIP trunk here, my default mode will ring extension 1000. My mode 1 will ring 1001. I can go ahead and enable inbound multiple mode. I can set a BLS subscription number, which for this purpose I'm going to use 777. Click Save. I will apply changes here. I can now move over to my phone. I'm going to select the only available one that I have for right now. Click on here. Going to set this to busy lamp field. Switch this over to my registered account of 1000. That's the one registered to my UCM. Description, I'm going to call it inbound multiple mode. Keep it short and simple. Value 777, what we set to the UCM. I'm going to lock this. You don't have to lock this, but I choose to so I don't lose track of it. Save VPK. Perfect. And if I look over, I can see my inbound multiple mode set to green. That tells me that it's in the default mode. Let's verify that. Yep, there we go, default mode. Now I'm going to go ahead and press it, and we'll see what happens.
Set success.
All right, that was a success. And as you can see, it transferred it over to mode 1. Now if I get an inbound call on this trunk, it will actually ring 1001. And by a click of a key, I can make it go from red to green.
Set success.
Which is our default mode.
We hope that you found that video tutorial helpful, and if you did, don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to our channel for the latest in video tutorials. I'm Nathan Sharp. You have a good one.